Hey guys, in this video I'm gonna go over all the aiming techniques and how to utilize them for the hero Hanzo. People might say that Hanzo is a no-brain hero that just spams arrows, but you can actually utilize that and make him a very consistent hero. So the four major aiming categories I'm gonna go over is flickshotting, tracking, peeking, and directional aiming. These might not be the official terms, but these are the terms that I'm using for these aiming techniques. Flickshotting is a method of aiming that relies on your unconscious cognition and muscle memory rather than cognitive aiming. It's a reaction shot and much quicker than conventional aiming. Muscle memory and practice makes this much quicker and more accurate than lining up your sights on a moving target. For example, if you're facing an enemy tracer as Hanzo, it'll be super hard to try and use the tracking technique to land a shot, but with flickshotting you can a lot quicker aim at the tracer and fire off a shot before she can react. Flickshotting peaks in performance at close to medium range when facing quick and right in your face targets, such as Tracer, Summer before she can hack, McCree before he can stun, Genyu when he's just jumping around, Mercenary and Ultimate, Lucy wall riding, or even Pharah as a close to medium range, since it's super hard to track down a Pharah with Hanzo and just land a headshot that's needed. So how do you practice flick shots? Start off by having the sensitivity you feel the most comfortable with and stay with that sensitivity so your muscle memory learns it. I would suggest aiming with your forearm instead of your wrist since it's more consistent and you won't risk any wrist injuries. So to practice it, I would suggest going into practice range and aim at a certain point of the map, then flick to one of the moving bots, reset your crosshair to the middle again, and then flick again. Keep doing this over and over again. This will teach you muscle memory and the distance needed to subconsciously move your arm at the right distance to hit the target. The second practice is to start doing this while you're running around, because most of the time you're not gonna stand still while you're shooting, of course. But remember, give it time, nothing goes in just one day, especially when it's revolving muscle memory. The second category is tracking. Tracking is a method that relies on you following the target with your crosshair to fire off shots. With Hanzo, you're most often aiming in front of where they're running to since Hanzo is a projectile-based hero, so this is optimized for medium to long range. So tracking might be the most basic method at aiming and the most used at longer distances, since flickshotting at long distances is a challenge because there's so little mouse movement needed because they're going to be way closer to your crosshair and they're going to be smaller targets. Try to aim where you think the people are going to run at instead of directly at them. Take your time, but not too much time. Try to find the sweet spot. I normally give myself around 1 second of tracking before firing off the shot at the enemy, just a tiny bit in front of them. You will have to learn the projectile speed of Hanzo, and that pretty much just comes in time, so the more you spend in playing the game, the more often you're gonna hit consistent tracking shots. To practice tracking, go into a custom game and play against Zenyatta or Ana bots that doesn't shoot back. Shoot at them from a pretty long distance before they can get to the point. Of course, they're gonna run in a pretty static movement, but it's a great way to learn the travel speed of Hanzo's projectiles and how far forward you need to aim with your crosshair relevant to the enemy's head. The third category is peeking or peek shooting. Peeking is when you stand behind a corner or a wall and quickly peek so the enemies are in line of sight, and then you fire off a shot, then you return behind the wall. This makes it a lot harder for the enemies to hit you and you won't need to stand right in the open taking damage. This technique is great against enemy widowmakers, since unless they have infrasight active, they will most likely not be able to react during that split second you peek and shoot at them. So you can use continuously fire off shots at their direction until you land a headshot. This is also great if your team doesn't have a shield to hide behind. One of the best techniques is to utilize your vision arrow to see the enemies behind the wall you're standing and easily peek shoot. Most of the time they won't even see it coming. To practice this technique, I'd suggest learning both the basic tracking and flickshotting first. Then head into quick play and stand around corners to try and peek and land headshots on enemies. Keep in mind that Hanzo can also wall climb, so it's possible to climb a wall and peek shoot. The final category is directional aiming, as I call it. Pretty much whenever you get shot randomly by Hanzo across the map just spamming arrows, people would say it's lucky, but in reality you can utilize that technique and make it way more consistent. This is optimized at medium to long range. Directional aiming takes a bit more game sense than aiming skill. Try to think about where the enemies are gonna move, where they're gonna pop up from, or where they just could be standing, and shoot at that general direction. To be honest, accuracy in game doesn't even matter, it's just stats. After a while, you should be able to land some clean hits on enemies that you didn't even see. For example, if the enemy team has a Reinhardt, you can keep shooting at the sides of his barrier and possibly hit an enemy standing on the right side of the barrier. What I like to do is sometimes aiming at the people behind Reinhardt's barrier while I'm doing damage to the barrier, since sometimes Reinhardt lowers his shield randomly just to, for example, 5-strike or ultimate, and whenever he lowers his shield, they will die. To practice directional aiming, I would suggest learning all the previous categories, since then it'll be more optimized and your game sense should be a lot better. Go into quick play and try to adapt how the enemies are moving. Keep in mind that everyone has different positioning depending on their ranks and what hero they're playing, so taking people's mistakes in low ranks will be a lot easier than in high ranks. For example, sometimes people will be stuck in a lower rank but will still have a really great game sense and never make mistakes. The final bonus tip I would like to talk about is when you should use your Storm Arrow. I personally use the Storm Arrow to break down Rhino's barrier, shoot at close range pharaohs, or just do more damage to tanks. Since Storm Arrow is so forgiving, you can start off by firing a normal shot, then quickly use the Storm Arrow in case you miss your shot and take out the target. This doesn't take a lot of skill, but it's a way to secure a kill. Keep in mind that you will need to learn the time it takes for each arrow to shoot, since there's a delay between each shot, and there's also travel time before it hits the target, so tracking is mostly utilized when using Storm Arrow. But sometimes you will see flicking with Storm Arrow as well, but I wouldn't say it's as consistent, because unless you hit that headshot and you flick shot, you will most likely not be aiming at the target anymore, and they could probably just kill you. But I really hope this will help some of you guys out. If this video can reach 10k likes, I will make sure to make a similar tutorial for Widowmaker in the future. And if you want some more game sense based tutorials that's made from the highest ranked players in the world, for Hanzo or any hero in that matter, I do recommend checking out GameLib. GameLib is a site that uploads daily Overwatch tutorials. A link will be posted down in the description and at the end of this video. Since Overwatch updates their game kinda frequently, YouTube tutorials can get outdated pretty quick, so GameLib is pretty much the only place you can find up-to-date tutorials in Overwatch. But now, let me show you guys some clips of all the categories utilized. Hope you guys enjoy. Nice.
Front one. There's no shield. One.
Ready, Hanzo?
Yes.
That's big Hanzo. Good shit. Oh, good one.
Hanzo push-ups. Hanzo.
You have my thanks.
Okay.
Let's go again. Don't will kill me.
Kenji. Oh, good job, Hanzo.
Hanzo did it!
Good job. Bien, Luciolo. One, Bastian. Mirage, wait. One. Another right side. Careful.